start this by telling just a small little story that means a lot to me. Back when I was 12 years old, I was playing on a stack of lumber for which my father said, "Son, if you keep messing around there, you're going to get hurt." Well, sure enough, I did. I slipped and a 2-inch splinter went up my leg. I went running over to him, this big shocked look on my face, and he said, "What did I tell you, son?" So he went to pull the splinter out, and when he did, it broke off. Well, immediately I thought that he would take me down to the doctor and have that splinter removed. We were so poor that it meant whether or not we got to go to the doctor or whether or not we got to eat. Well, we chose to eat. And over those years, that splinter stayed in my foot, or my shin. But my father's message to me was this: "Son, have patience. I know what I'm doing. That splinter will eventually work its way out, and you can put that in the book because it will happen." Well, about 45 years later, my wife and I were on the back of my brother's boat in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And we were coming in from fishing, and we were running along there, and I happened to look down at my leg, and I was amazed that something was coming out. I got so excited that my brother and my wife and my sister-in-law could not imagine what in the world was going on. And I said, look, you got to look. Well, I said, "Christy, please pull this out." Well, she pulled it out, and it was a 1-inch splinter that had been in my leg for some 45 years. Now, over those 45 years, periodically I would reach down and I'd feel that. And I would think, is my father right? Do I have these kinds of patients? He wasn't a doctor, but it never got infected. And you know, I got married to my wife. Probably one of the first things I did was show her that splinter. She looks at it and says, "You know, this is no big deal." Well, my sister-in-law took that little splinter. She put it in a frame. It's now sitting in my study in my Houston home. It says to good friends, good food, and good fishing. And every time I sit down at my computer, I see that. And over these 45 years that was in my leg, I always remembered what my father told me. It never came out before he died, but shortly after he passed away, the splinter came out. Now, this brings me to the point that I'm up here to discuss with you. I've been involved in Sigma Nu since I was initiated on April the 23rd, 1966, Texas State University in San Marcos. I hold pin number 4. I was the first commander of the Editorial chapter. And over the last 46 years, I've had a little splinter in my heart for Sigma Nu. I've worked with a local chapter. I was the unfortunate one back in the 80s that had to have the chapter suspended. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But I will tell you that that little splinter over these 46 years of being with Sigma Nu has continued to work its way toward the outer part of my skin. 4 years ago, Brad, you'd have to correct me. Brad came to me in Houston and asked me if I'd make a donation to the Sigma Nu Educational Foundation. And I said, "Well, Brad, what do you have in mind?" He said, "Well, would you consider giving us $100,000? I said, "Yes, I'll give you $100,000. I'll pledge this over 5 years, and I think, Brad, you'll have to correct me, I think I paid it in 3 years." So as I moved beyond that and I began to see all the great things that this Sigma Nu organization is doing for all these wonderful collegiate men, where they've turned boys into men and the leadership of our country, and I see a guy like Rich Kinder, I see these honorees that were presented today, that are members of Sigma Nu fraternity, and what great things that Sigma Nu is doing. It brings a great pride to me to tell you that I'm here today to announce that I am giving $1.5 million to the Sigma Nu Educational Foundation Board. With that, they received a check from me on Monday for $1 million. Today, I happened to go into a meeting that I really wasn't invited to. They were sitting there and they were talking about headquarters and how headquarters needed all these repairs. And they were talking nickels and dimes. And I said, guys, my wife and I were just there in the month of April. We love the place. How much money do you need in order to get where you want to be? They said, well, $250,000. I said, well, how about if I give you $300,000? Well, that would be nice. So after the $300,000 commitment, I had another conversation with Brad, and I raised that up to another $200,000. So today, I'm proud to say that I am a contributor of $1.5 million to the Sigma Nu Educational Foundation Board. Thank you.